I have a wonderful family. They all live in California, and they're all very musical and artists, especially my mother and my father. But my father, I think he could have been a professional singer. And so he had a huge passion for me and my 3 brothers to sing. So I started singing before I could speak. And I'm very lucky because my parents always supported me to be a singer, to be an actress, to pursue my passion in art, as well as my 3 brothers. So I'm lucky that way. When I started in college at Standford University, I had a wonderful voice teacher named Marie Gibson. And then I went on to New England Conservatory in Boston and received a master's in voice performance and studied there also with a fantastic teacher. His name was Mark Pearson. But a very important turning moment was for me over 20 years ago, going to Tanglewood, which is a music festival in Boston, near Boston. It's in Massachusetts. And there was a fantastic teacher there, a maestra. Her name is Phyllis Curtin. And I partook in a course there, a master class. And her technique is very special. And then I moved to New York to pursue Broadway and musical theater. And she introduced me to a very important teacher. Her name is Joan Heller. And she put my technique together for me, I think. I've always taken from every teacher that I've had, but Joan Heller has been very important as far as technique and singing. And so I learned my technique, a classical technique, initially. And then when I moved to New York, I studied acting with a fantastic woman named Susan Batson. She's very important in how I connect singing with acting. Which is very important, special part of my technique. Auditioning is always very difficult for every performer. I was in New York for about 8 years, auditioning, performing. There was a wonderful company called Light Opera of Manhattan, and I was a classical singer. But I wanted to sing all different styles, and when you sing on Broadway, you have to be able to sing in all different styles, including classical, Broadway. It's called Broadway belting, where it's really loud, forceful music, also pop, jazz, even rock and roll. And I'd never studied how to sing in these different techniques, but I found a way to learn these techniques myself. So for those years, I was always, auditioning, doing smaller shows. Finally, to do this new style, this Broadway style. So I went to a vocal coach, and he's not a voice teacher. He's just a pianist and a conductor. He conducted on Broadway for Cats. And I asked him, okay, tell me when I'm making the right sound, because I know I can do the style. I just don't know what the sound is. And we worked on the score. And then I auditioned for a little company in Ohio and got to be the understudy for Evita. And then right away, I got the world tour of Evita and understudied the role. When I returned, I auditioned again for Les Miserables. I've been auditioning for Les Miserables for 8 years. But I didn't know how to do this belting sound. They didn't believe that I could do it. After 8 years, I went into this audition, I sang a song, and the casting director, who knew me by then after 8 years, and said, oh, you can do this. I said, yes. So I went on to do the tour of Les Miserables, which is the Broadway tour throughout the United States. And then later went on to do Ilello Dolly, starring Carrol Channing on Broadway, also on tour. And another Broadway tour I did was Phantom of the Opera, playing Madame Giry, one of the lead roles in Phantom of the Opera. So it's always a journey. For me, it took many years. Some people, they do it right away. You have to have perseverance to be in this business, that's for sure. Singing and acting connected together, I believe, are very important. Sometimes what happens when you learn classical singing, they get very focused on the sound you're making. Well, the truth is that you have to tell a story through song. When I arrived in New York, I had a very good technique. I could sing opera, I could sing classical music. I was still learning the new styles. But I wasn't quite connecting myself, my emotional life, my special part of me to the song. It was like my voice was separate from me. When I met Susan Batson, I learned some very important tools, how to connect those two things together. She wasn't a vocal teacher. She didn't teach me how to sing, but she taught me how to act, and I was able to find a way to connect those two things together. And I found a way now to teach singing, which I know singing technique very well. My technique begins with, of course, voice technique. And what I learned from my teachers, especially Joan Heller, what it finally comes down to is singing with breathing and support and speaking. It's just exactly what the human body wants to do. In fact, for example, breathing, these are the elements: breathing, support, and resonance. These bones here are resonators. We have resonators here throughout the chest. You're connecting these elements together for the technique. And I think what I can do very well with each student is to see where they're holding tension. Every person is different. You can't tell every student the same way to do it because everybody has different problems. So we're connecting those elements. Then right away, we're connecting some acting elements, including the emotional life. In acting, if you make something very specific, for example, you're singing a song, I might say, think of a person who you would love to see today. Let's put that person in front of you, pretend the person is there, use your imagination like an actor would do, and sing that song right to that person who you know. Strangely, when you're singing it to somebody you know, we in the audience feel they're singing about somebody we know. It suddenly connects. It's something very special. So I've been able to connect these two elements with the voice technique. It's not just, let's make a pretty sound. It's right away, let's make a story. Speaking and singing is out of talking. So we're always using exactly what the body wants. You'd think that the best style that my technique works for would be classical because I studied as a classical singer. But the truth is that it works with every style. The difference is you're going to resonate, meaning these different places you resonate the voice in different places. That will change the style. I think I've always been a teacher, even when I was younger and teaching all the kids. But what happened is my teacher, Susan Batson, my acting teacher, was teaching Nicole Kidman. She's her acting coach. And Nicole Kidman had the possibility of auditioning for a new musical movie at the time called Moulin Rouge. And she was friends with the director, Baz Luhrmann, but she had to audition. And she had never taken a voice lesson in her life. But she has a beautiful voice, and so Susan connected me with Nicole Kidman and she got her ready for the audition, and as we know, she got the part and went on to do some wonderful work.
The French are glad to die for love. They delight in fighting duels.
But from there, I just started teaching more. Some Broadway companies started calling me, including Disney. For example, they did the Elton John's Aida, Tarzan on Broadway. They heard about me and said, oh, why don't you come and help a couple of our stars, some of our cast members in the chorus for their technique. There's a very wonderful casting director in New York, Bernard Telsey Casting. They cast many Broadway shows, films, and they always think of me as the person to send their rock and roll singers. When a rock and roll singer needs help, send them to Mary.